Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always ready to go deep.
Today, we're tackling a topic that's, well, kind of tricky. It's all about defamation lawsuits, but with a twist. We're zeroing in on this thing called limited purpose public figures. And trust me, it's a lot more relevant to everyday life than you might think.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in this age of social media and, everyone having a platform.
Okay, so our listener is really curious about how this whole limited purpose public figure thing plays out in the real world, like legally speaking. The source material we've got lays out how this classification can completely change the game in a defamation lawsuit.
You hit the nail on the head there, because in a defamation case, it all boils down to the burden of proof. If you are labeled a limited purpose public figure, the bar is set way higher for you to win.
Higher than proving the statement was false. I mean, isn't that like the core of defamation?
It is, but here's the catch. For regular folks, private citizens, you just need to prove what we call negligence. That the person who made the statement, didn't really bother to check their facts, wasn't careful enough.
Makes sense.
But for a limited purpose public figure, it's a whole different story. They have to prove actual malice.
Actual malice. That sounds serious.
It is. Essentially, you got to demonstrate that the person making the statement knew it was false when they said it. Or at the very least, they were reckless about whether it was true or not. And that, let me tell you, is a whole lot harder to prove.
Wow. Okay, that's a super high bar. So how does someone even become a limited purpose public figure? I mean, I'm picturing celebrities, politicians, the obvious ones.
Well, yeah, those are definitely the classic examples, but our source actually outlines 7 ways someone can be considered a limited-purpose public figure, and some of them are a lot closer to home.
Really? Like what?
Well, think about someone who's super vocal about a specific cause. Maybe they're really active in their community, always writing letters to the editor, organizing protests, that sort of thing.
Okay, I can see that.
If they gain enough traction, start influencing public opinion on that issue, boom.
Yeah.
They could be deemed a limited-purpose public figure.
So if that person gets hit with a defamatory statement, they're held to that actual malice standard.
Chances are, yep. The courts would likely argue they've voluntarily stepped into the public arena trying to shape the conversation, so they're subject to different rules.
So it's like a trade-off. You get the influence, but also the responsibility that comes with it. What about, I don't know, say someone gets dragged into the spotlight without really wanting to be there. Does that happen?
It totally does. That's actually one of the 7 ways our source mentions. They call it involuntary public figure status.
Like how?
Imagine you happen to witness a major event or something, and suddenly your video of it goes viral. Next thing you know, you're being hounded by the media, giving interviews. The spotlight finds them.
You're right. That stuff happens all the time now with smartphones and social media. But that's wild to think. Even if you didn't choose the attention, you could still be labeled a limited-purpose public figure because of it.
It's certainly possible, yeah.
Right.
The courts would weigh the specifics, how much involvement did they have in the public matter, all that. But yeah, it highlights how this whole area of law can be pretty complex.
Totally. So going back to our source, what are some of the other ways someone can fall into this limited-purpose public figure category? I mean, we've got someone who's actively advocating, someone who's unwillingly thrust into the spotlight. What else?
Okay, so let's see. We've got those who achieve some level of fame or notoriety within a specific field.
Oh, I see. So like, not necessarily a household name, but well-known within a certain circle.
Exactly. It could be, say, a scientist who's known for their groundbreaking research on a particular disease, or a local business owner who's, a prominent figure in their community. Maybe they're always spearheading charity drives or something.
Okay, that makes sense. So if those individuals were to sue for defamation, they'd also have to prove actual malice.
Yeah, likely. And the logic there is similar, right? They've got a platform, they've got influence, even if it's within a limited sphere, so the courts hold them to a higher standard.
So it's not always about being famous. It's more about the level of influence you have, whether you sought it out or not.
Right. And our source even talks about how someone can become a limited-purpose public figure just for a specific event or situation. If someone is chosen to lead a public campaign, or let's say they take a very prominent role in a local controversy.
Interesting. So it's all super context dependent.
It totally is. And that's what makes this whole concept so tricky. It's not always black and white.
So for our listener who's trying to wrap their head around all of this, what's the key takeaway here?
I think the biggest thing is to be aware that the lines between private citizen and public figure are getting blurrier, especially online.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like we said, anyone with a social media account can potentially build a platform, gain a following, and influence the conversation. And that means more people than ever before could find themselves subject to this actual malice standard if they're ever involved in a defamation lawsuit.
That is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. So to sum up, becoming a limited-purpose public figure isn't just about fame and fortune. It can happen in all sorts of ways, and it has huge implications for how defamation cases play out.
Absolutely. And as our online and offline lives become more and more intertwined, this is definitely a legal concept that's worth understanding. It makes you wonder, in this age of instant connectivity and viral trends, are we all just one tweet or TikTok away from becoming limited purpose public figures ourselves?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. Thanks so much for breaking down this complex topic for us.
Happy to be here.
And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time.